Good morning, everyone. Firstly, a really big thank you to ICNZ, especially Tim, for the opportunity for Fintech NZ to be involved at today's conference. But also, very significantly, this is probably the first time that I've seen an insurance industry conference that has a very significant part of the day allocated to a technology conversation, and that's really, really great to see. So once again, thank you, Tim, for that. I have a very short, less than 10 minutes, so I only have a couple of brief slides that I can share with you. I'll talk through, but before that, I would like to just very briefly introduce the three excuse me, speakers who will then be on the panel at the end. First is Steve Graham from KPMG, and then after morning tea, we'll have Ralph Ronenberg from Munich Re, and then Andrew Steed from IAG. So I'll just quickly jump through to excuse me, some key, I guess, highlights and overall visibility around what's going on in FinTech, and then in particularly InsurTech that impacts the insurance sector. And then perhaps talk about a little bit what we are doing about insurance technology in New Zealand. So first of all, I'll share some of the highlights that I've managed to obtain from PwC's annual FinTech survey globally. So thank you, PwC, for that. But let's just start with what innovation in financial services has been. Well, for as long as I've been involved in financial technology, and this goes back to around in 1993, financial services have always innovated with technology. There's always been developments going on in all kinds of types of systems, and front-end, back-end, banking, insurance, finance. And traditionally, innovation has been expensive. It has been very large projects. It has been mainly internal. And it has been also mainly very organizational focus. It's around how organizations function. But the landscape has changed significantly. Today, the landscape is full of new technology platforms that actually make it easier to innovate for anybody. You know, we have new technologies that are spread through the wider use of internet today, but also a wider adoption of mobile technologies around the world. And so what we're seeing is that innovation is now rather inexpensive. A lot of it is happening external to these traditional organizations, and much of it is customer focused. You know, and then on top of that, what we're starting to seeing very rapidly too is with this particular ecosystem behavior, we're seeing new business models kind of coming through. So we see the unbundling and then rebundling of offerings that could happen quite easily, seamlessly, and rapidly in financial services. So what are the kind of the key drivers and enablers? In terms of drivers, it's still very much, you know, efficiency and scalability is quite key in financial services. Integration of data sources is also very key in being able to deliver better services. And then there's an increasing focus now on the customer journey and the experience of that journey, but then more importantly, starting to kind of encroach into the areas where customer engagement and customer empowerment is really going to be quite key. You know, and that's kind of the kind of drivers that we're seeing. And then enablers, well, there are many. There's public cloud technology, there's this Internet of Things and sensors, there's mobile technology, there's data analytics, chatbot and artificial intelligence, robotics process automation, biometric and identity management, distributed ledger, blockchain, trusted contract, digital identity, cryptocurrency, and then also the range of omni-channel customer engagement platforms that are emerging strongly as well. So a lot of these things really enable financial services to kind of take things to the next level. But what's the difference between innovation and disruption? Well, there are a lot of assistive innovation activities happening. There has always been, but there's increasingly more so now. So not everything is being disrupted. And so this is about improving existing activities and experiences in the business. Disruptive innovation, however, are the ones that are changing the game. Now, it's not always easy to come up with new things that will change an existing game, but it is happening. And this is where completely new business models and completely new and different kind of experiences that have never existed before are coming forth. Last year, about 83% of incumbent financial service providers felt that part of their business is at risk from disruptive innovation. And this year, that's only increased to 88%. And that's quite a significant global trend in how businesses feel about disruptive innovation. So what are incumbents and startups doing? Well, many incumbents are adopting a bimodal strategy where they still have to keep the lights on. The systems still have to function, the transaction, the data, the customer bases, all of that still has to go on. And that's one mode. But at the same time, there's a parallel mode that large organizations are adopting. And this second mode is more around enabling the organizations to innovate at the business unit level and working with external partners and then bring everything together and integrate that back into the core. And this is becoming more popular as an approach, as a strategy around what your CIOs or CTOs probably be thinking about. Startups are also becoming more aware that they actually can't really disrupt the world that currently is completely. They need access and scalability. They need capital and they need expertise in financial services that they, coming from the technology background, may lack. So what we're seeing, the key point here is that over the last several years, fintech and financial services are now competing less, but coming together more. And that seems to be a global trend that's happening. So how is this all happening? Well, first of all, a number of the incumbents are already starting to think about how they work with technology adoption and new innovation. So globally, 82% of incumbents expect to increase financial or fintech partnerships over the next 3 to 5 years. And this is enabled through these emerging technologies that I talked about before. But ultimately, these organizations are starting to see that the only way to get returns really is to invest and learn through an incremental journey. So you just got to start somewhere, as opposed to waiting for the one big thing that may come along and kind of change the sector. So focusing more specifically on the insurance sector. Well, the areas to address customer retention in the context of new fintech competition for insurance firstly, at the priority number one seems to be the ease of use and the intuitive product design of your products. And then the second priority seems to be the superior customer service that's going to really position and differentiate you in the market. And then third priority is fast service and 24/7 accessibility to your services. And cost comes in as number 4 priority. And this is how globally how the insurance sector is actually seeing their next evolution with technology. Some key observations. There is an increase in pace globally in adopting new technology and wanting to work with new innovation. But a lot of insurers still see that their industry is still very at risk to disruption. So there's a number of companies are now starting to look at how fintech activities becomes more core to what they're trying to do with their business strategy and new products. So there's a more kind of close alignment between new technology and new innovations with the core strategy of the business. And that's really, really good to see. From the survey, from the PwC survey, 84% of insurance businesses are looking at increasing the level of fintech partnerships over the coming years, over the next 3 to 5 years. But the areas of impact that we are seeing that insurers are thinking about why and where and how they're going to respond, these are kind of in 3 main areas. Firstly is the increased sophistication of data models and data analytics to allow better identifying and quantifying of risk. And I think that is a great opportunity. The second area is the increased sophistication in methods to reach, engage, and serve customers in a highly targeted, highly contextualized manner. And then the third area is the rise of aggregators out there who are able to provide comparison of products and services from different providers to the end consumers. So these are the 3 kind of areas that insurers globally see that the areas to engage and innovate more. Some interesting examples, perhaps. I just want to kind of throw some thoughts out there. The world is changing, so it's not insurance changing to kind of being better insurers, but really to respond to the changing world. I mean, how does Airbnb changes the nature of risk for people who own their homes today and who are starting to share their homes? How does Uber vehicles and drivers change the risk of transportation? How do vehicle telemetric and sharing, be it cars or bikes or truck or boats, impact on risk and insurance? And then also there's a whole bunch of cyber threats out there that are risk to not just businesses, but also individual consumers as well. Where does that lead in terms of insurance opportunity? And I think whether or not it's an opportunity or a threat, it really boils down to what insurers actually choose to do about it. Just very, very quickly now, last year, the growth of fintech in New Zealand was at 31.5%, which is hugely a high growth rate, which is really exciting. But just within a year today, fintech in New Zealand has grown, or is growing at the rate of 48.5% per annum. And that's even more exciting. But the reason why Fintech NZ came together earlier this year was that despite all this growth and activities, a lot of things were happening in silos. So it was really good for us to be able to kind of establish a platform to bring the industry together, both financial service providers as well as technology innovators, into one particular forum, one particular community to engage with each other. And since February, we've gained 90 members, more than 90 members, and that's both financial services providers as well as technology companies, but also government, industry organizations, and international members. So this is a very, very rapidly growing and engaging community that's really taking technology innovation right through to the heart of financial services. We've got annual conference and quarterly events, working groups and monthly activities that everyone can engage in. But also what we're working on right now is to shape the New Zealand FinTech agenda and also provide a landscape map of who's doing what in technology innovation across financial services. And then at the same time, starting to engage with international markets and international FinTech communities now that we've come together and become more internationally accessible. So starting with Singapore, and then we've got the ASEAN nations, we've got Australia coming up, and we've got the UK engaging with us as well. So it's an exciting time. But just kind of bring it all back into the insurance context. FinTech is also fairly diverse, and within that, there is a lot of depth that we can cover around InsurTech or insurance in technology. And so what we are starting to do is we're forming a FinTech NZ insurance working group, and we are hoping to launch that group at the end of this month. And so I'd love to invite any kind of connections and engagement and participation from everyone in the room here, or even just inquiries about what we're doing, what we're wanting to do. But the key is to really provide a platform, a vehicle to engage the insurance sector much more so than up to date. And in the room, I just want to invite James Brown and Jason Roberts to stand up. So James Brown is the GM of Fintech NZ, and Jason is our designated lead coordinator for the new insurance working group. So when you get a chance to, please say hi to James and Jason today and find out a bit more about what's going on.